Ah yes, ladies and gentlemen, from the nice folks at Cornerstone all the way over in Italy, it is the NERO FUZZ. So, and I'm reading from their website. Imagine a gadget that harkens, it says harks. Can you say harks? I think it's harkens, but anyway, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean. Harks back to the classic vintage sounds, yet embraces ingenuity and forward-thinking design, and that's the NERO FUZZ. Now, I would say that that is an accurate description of this pedal because it's got a real kind of vintage character to it, but it's got some modern features that make it really flexible. So first of all, you can preset two different fuzz sounds in there. There's two bias controls and you can A/B between two settings. Now what does the bias do? It kind of takes it from a very spitty sort of lo-fi gated sound at the lower regions of the bias control all the way up to a much sort of fuller, more healthier, and dare I say, I don't know, modern meets vintage kind of fuzz sound. And in any of the positions, it's very sort of volume control dependent. So the amount of signal you're sending in from your pickups, whether the bias control is low or high, definitely affects the sound of the fuzz. It's a very dynamic effect. So on the track at the beginning of the video, I used both lower bias settings, higher bias settings, and I also varied the volume control on my guitar and the pickups to try and sort of demonstrate that. Because really the pedal can go anywhere from like a gated spitty kind of thing all the way on up to a full-on roar singing sustain kind of sound. Or it can go from like almost like an overdrive sound on up to a full-on fuzz sound just with a slight twist of the volume knob on your guitar. It's got their Gladio SC circuit in it, which is kind of like an overdrive circuit, and it's mated in parallel with the fuzz circuit. So oftentimes you have to use like a fuzz pedal with an overdriven amp or it sounds kind of weird. It's kind of the blend of the overdrive of the amp and a fuzz pedal, a vintage style fuzz pedal that kind of makes for magic tones usually. But with this one, you've got the Gladio in there, so you kind of can use, I think, a totally clean amp, sort of pedal platform amp if you want to, and you'll still get that great effect of overdrive blended with fuzz. Kind of unique on this pedal for sure, compression control, and I guess that's the compression from the Gladio circuit. In practice, it's really useful actually. If you kind of want more wild fuzz sounds or you want it a little more even, a little more controlled, you can use that compression control. And then you got a volume and a gain control there for the fuzz amount, and you got a tone control. On-off switch and then an A/B switch to go between the two fuzz settings, and actually you can remote switch that if you want to. There's a external 1/4-inch switching jack here, so let's say you want to mount this in a rack or something, or put it on a pedal board with a pedal switcher and switch it via your switcher, you can do that. So one thing that Cornerstone made sure to do with this pedal, and I think this is really cool, is they made it usable in any position on your pedal board. It's not really that sensitive to buffers, so you can kind of, you know, put it wherever you want, after overdrives or after a buffer at the beginning of your board, and still get great sounds out of the pedal. So if you've got a wireless system, or if you've got a buffer right in front on your pedal board as the first thing in the chain, you don't need to worry too much. With this pedal, you're covered. I'm going to show you more on that in just a second. So I use my Sir Classic S for this video, and then I'm running into the Sir SL68 on just a barely broken up setting for the whole video. Okay, let's get on with it. It is the NERO FUZZ from Cornerstone. So I just cut the first part in my song at the beginning, and for this I'm over here on the red side, and I've got the bias control cranked up about 3/4 of the way up. And what I notice is that when I use the bias set like this, the pedal is not really sensitive to a buffer being in front of it, which will make it real pedal board friendly with lots of different setups. So if I turn off the pedal, here's the tone that I've got going for this. Drop my pick. It's the SL68 going into the treble channel, but I don't have a bright cap switched in, so it's like a plexi with no bright cap basically, and I've got the volume on about 6. So turning on the pedal, I got the volume and the gain on about half. I got the tone control, let's see, where's the tone? Just a little below noon. And the compression I've got at about 9 o'clock. And once again, the bias is up 3/4 of the way up. Let's listen to the sound. Okay, so this sounded really great rolling down on the neck pickup at the beginning. Right, so it's quite dynamic and it's sensitive to the volume control on the guitar. It's not just like a one-trick pony sound or anything like that. What I'm finding is if I switch in a buffer in front, I've got my Providence pedal here that has a buffer circuit, and it's a tuner with a buffer. I can switch it in. You'll hear how the sound virtually stays the same, buffer in or buffer out. I can't really hear any difference. It sounds exactly the same. I'm flipping this little buffer switch right here. If I roll down the volume on the guitar, it's the neck pickup. Yeah, it's not really changing. So when you have the bias up this high, about 3/4 the way up, pedal works almost totally transparently, buffer or no buffer. Pretty cool. If you lower that bias control, I find it makes a little bit more of a difference in the sound. As I get lower, more and more of a difference. So let's check it out. Okay, so now you can hear when I've got the bias down below half, you're going to hear a little more difference in the sound for sure. It's like more gain and brighter and clearer. Just kind of seems to maybe, I don't know if it's like lessening the effect of the bias control or what it is, but anyway. That's with the buffer switched in and the volume down on the guitar. That's true bypass. Okay, so interesting, just a finding that I made that, you know, depending on your rig, it still sounds good with the buffer switched in and with the bias set low. It's just a different sound. There's like more gain and more high end in the sound, but still usable, you know, with a buffer, or you can go for the true bypass thing. Just an observation that I made. So for the second little lead part in the tune, I turned up the volume, which I noticed increased kind of the punch. Sometimes when you increase the volume on a fuzz, it kicks the front end of the amp harder and collapses it more and you get less articulation. But I noticed with this one, more articulation. It's almost like it gets a little brighter and just kind of, yeah, punches a little harder as I turn up the volume. So that sounded good to me. So I had it about almost 3/4 the way up. Brought the gain up to about 1 o'clock. I brought the tone up a little higher. I left the bias up high. And I brought the compression up a little bit. And this tone just sounded really cool. It's a little more gain, a little more volume. That kind of thing. But you notice that it punches when I'm playing. Like it's got like articulation on those little clipped chords. Something like that. But anyways, I really like this tone, and it kind of, you know, endless sustain and stuff with this. Okay, so for the little down section, I decided to use kind of a little bit more of a broken sound. So I went for really low bias and kind of under biased, I guess. And I like that kind of that broken little sound. In fact, it's just like a smaller sound. It's cool. Now, when you increase the bias control, the sound gets healthier and kind of like fuller sound. It's still obviously fuzzy. It doesn't get super clear. You can hear right away, like everything just fills in. But I like that kind of like that broken sound when you turn the. Makes a little noise when I turn the bias control. When you turn it way down, it just sounds more sort of spitty or something. It could be cool for certain parts. I noticed that that also the compression and the volume kind of affect the clarity when the bias is low. So you can get varying degrees of that sort of what I call like more spitty sound or whatever, or with a little more clarity. Let me show you what I mean. That's turning down the compression. Hear how when I turned it up, it just kind of, the volume dropped a little bit, but it evened everything out. So I found that interesting, and I had it kind of high for when I recorded, about 3/4 the way up. And then let me play with the volume control right now. So that, you know, you'll get varying degrees of punch and sort of more warmth or something. Like it's punchier and a little brighter when you turn up the volume, and a little clearer, and then it's a little warmer and a little more overall just kind of fuzzy sounding when you bring the volume down. Just little observations I made. Thanks for watching my video on the NERO Fuzz from Cornerstone. Great sounding, modern take on the classic, old, sort of primitive fuzz effect. It's a really, really expressive pedal, super dynamic, really responsive to your guitar's controls, pickups, volume control settings, and your playing attack. And it'll work on just about any pedal board in any guitar rig because of Cornerstone's sort of forward-thinking design. They were able to make it work with buffers. It'll definitely sort of increase the chances that I'll use it on my board when I need a fuzz, because that's always a problem for me. You know, I'm always using wireless and stuff like that when I play live, and then it's always an issue. I've got to switch to a cable for that one song where, you know, I want to use a fuzz pedal. So with this, no problem. You can check it out further, that link down there in the video description below. Click there and it'll take you to more info about the NERO Fuzz from Cornerstone. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Please hit subscribe if you haven't. Hit the little bell beside the subscribe. You'll get an alert when I get new videos. Come back and see me for more videos real soon. I'm Pete Thorne. Take care.